Hello and welcome to the Scotland Rugby News pod with me, your host, Bruce Aitchison from Happiness Egg Shape, and him, editor from Scotland Rugby News, Gavin Harper. And tonight we're celebrating because after Scotland's magnificent win, am I right in saying, Gav, that we're at number one in the world rankings? Is that right?
We're on our way.
We're on, all right, okay, right.
We're on our way.
Maybe I've got a bit ahead of myself there. Decent day. Tries galore, full stadium. Life must be pretty happy in Murrayfield Towers.
I would suggest so, but I think that the word you use, decent, probably to me sums it up. I thought there was lots of good stuff, but like I think Gregor said, there's a piece on the Scotland Rugby News site. They'll have to be a million times better to beat South Africa this weekend. So a good start, but an awful lot of work to do this week.
Yeah. It's one of those situations where you can only beat what's in front of you. I saw somebody, was it Austin Healy or somebody had called that Fiji, Danny Kerr had supposedly said that he thought Fiji were going to beat Scotland. So obviously folk are getting excited about that. But you can only beat what's in front of you, right? 57, whatever. You can only beat what's there. I suppose the pleasing thing is we scored a lot of tries, and I suppose conceding 17 might be a negative, but against Fiji in a game like that, first one, you probably accept that. Steve Tandy won't, but you probably accept that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think, and actually to have scored the tries that we scored, like, yes, there was an interception, but the rest of them were probably tries that Scotland made. So you would say, well, okay, the attack looked pretty good. Gregor talked a wee bit after the game about them trying a slightly different approach in attack. He obviously wasn't that keen to give too much away, but clearly whatever they have tried has worked. But similarly, there's defensively there's a lot of scope to be better because, I think I said this in my match report on Saturday, that better teams punish you for lapses like Scotland had after the first 20 minutes and the first 10 minutes of the second half. And if you're not in the game for 30 minutes against the Springboks, you're going to lose. So that'll be a big focus, I think, this week. And also, as much as Fiji did in the first 20 minutes, Scotland found themselves on the wrong side of the ref. They've got to sort that out. Because if you give South Africa piggyback penalties, you can go from your own, their 5 metre line to defending your own 22. And once they get into those positions, they're just so clinical.
Razzie likes to name his team pretty early. And I'm always kind of interested in when people name their teams and, keeping things cloak and dagger until really late on. But they've always gone, I think it's probably tomorrow. Like it's usually like 3 or 4 days before, isn't it? It's early. I wonder, I've never actually asked anybody, maybe if I get a chance, I'll say to Greg, or you can ask him, like, what does that do to you as a coach? Are you able to then, because you've not got a lot of time to change any analysis if they throw, I know that Springboks particularly throw you a curveball, but I mean, they're going to pick their strongest team. It's their first one.
It's their first one. They've been in Jersey for a week at a training camp. They arrived here yesterday. Their first press conference of the week is tomorrow morning. It's not their team announcement. I imagine that might come on Wednesday. But Scotland, by sort of contrast, have actually put their team announcement back. So that had been penciled in for Thursday. Scotland will now announce their team on Friday. And read into that what you will, I suppose. What does it do? I think, Warren Gatland with Wales always named his team probably Monday or Tuesday for a game on a Saturday. And I think, in the days of Phillips, Stephen Jones, Jamie Roberts, it says, this is our best team, come and beat it.
And that's what I feel about the Springboks. Like, I mean, whatever they pick, with that squad that's travelled, you're not really going to be able to go, oh, right, lads, do you know what we need to do? Because how do you do that against the Springboks? And I've not read a lot, but I've been reading a wee bit about there's, what's his name? Matt Williams is getting all excited, saying that New Zealand are rattled because the Springboks in Ireland have have upped their game in the the All Blacks, and they're not what they used to be. But I think the Springboks care about anybody else. I think they want to absolutely batter Scotland on Sunday.
Yeah, and I think, let's be perfectly honest, they'll make absolutely no excuses for the way they play either. I know a couple of players have said it after the game, and Gregor said it, that they've added kind of strings to their bow since winning the World Cup. They're definitely, I think, a better team now than the team that won the second of 2 back-to-back World Cups, which is frightening. But if they have to, they will go scrum and line out, maul, and kick everything. I don't think they have to do that to beat Scotland. But if the game becomes an arm wrestle and Scotland are in it with 15, 20, 25 to go, South Africa have got the ability to revert to type and say, right, well, we'll just kick everything in the air. We'll chase, we'll apply pressure, we'll apply scrum pressure, and inevitably, over the years, it's squeezed teams. So, look, I asked Gregor after the game on Saturday, he wasn't that keen to answer if this would be the biggest win of his nearly 8 years in charge, and I think there's no denying the fact that it would be. Like, if Scotland can pull this off and beat South Africa on Sunday, it would be right up there in terms of recent achievements. It's a huge ask.
If they beat South Africa on Sunday, it would make it a rubbish day to beat South Africa that you've got to go to work on Monday morning.
Makes getting up on Monday morning slightly easier, but I don't imagine many of the
right. If that's going to make it easier, you can take my daughter to swimming at 4:58 on Monday morning. If it's going to make it easier, you can do the swimming run on Monday morning. If we beat South Africa, you're taking Katie to swimming.
Sign me up.
Exactly. Hi, all over it. See, talking about South Africa strangling, and I know we're supposed to be talking about Fiji, but the Springboks fascinate me because I don't think they'll mind that much if Scotland have a lot of the ball. The way they defensively fill the field and deny space. I don't know what Gregor and Finn have got up their sleeve. Blair, do they start Ben White at scrum half? And up front, Xander, I take it, comes back in. I'll be interested to see who they start at hooker. I just think you look at what Scotland can pick, right? Their strongest 15, and you look at the South African 15, and you go, right, what are we going to do that breaks that down?
Yeah, and I think that's some of the interesting selections for the Springboks will be, I think, 9 and 10. They could quite easily throw Henry Pollard in at 10, and then that is a clear indication of how they're going to play. If they go Libbok at 10, it suggests they might play a slightly different game. Damien Willems is out injured, so they've not got his kind of flexibility. Look, I think it's the best squad in World Rugby. Like, they've got the best depth, they've got some of the best players. Do you know?
I think will also be a sign of how seriously they're taking Scotland will be the split on the bench. I'll be intrigued if they 6-2, if they go 6-2 against Scotland. I reckon that's now the South African default, and you're only going to start talking about it if it's a 5-3 split, because against Scotland, with what might be on the bench for Scotland, I think South Africa could well go 5-3 on the bench.
Yeah, I think you're right. And they've got that flexibility again that if they add an extra back and their forwards coming on are still going to be strong. They've not got Franz Malherbe's out injured, so they're down to probably third choice tight head on the bench. But then you look at, by comparison, we might have Will Hurd's got a couple of caps. Darcy Ray got his second cap at the weekend. We're realistically probably asking Xander to do 80 minutes after what has been a busy week for him. After 60 minutes on Saturday, he's going to probably have to go the distance. And that might be the same of others. I think
I'm also interested. So just who's on the bench at Loosehead? Because Pierre's going to start. Does does he go 2 in a row, or does Jamie Batty come in, or is there another plan there that I'm not aware of?
Yeah, I think that's interesting as well. It's that balance. I kind of wrote a piece about this last week. It's the balance of making sure players are fit and ready to go, which I think a lot of the starters, barring maybe one or two exceptions, showed themselves to be against Fiji, with then holding players back and giving them an extra training week and making sure, somebody like Jamie Batty, for example, has he been spending the week getting ready to go up against the Springboks, or is that very much we're reading too much into that and it's a straight selection? Suz is the next best and he's in a game,
or is the plan that Suz does the first two and Jamie does Portugal and Aussie, with who knows what's going to happen with Chile. I'm just intrigued, and Edinburgh have made some selections this year based on what happened the week before, stats, data. It would be really difficult to justify selection off the back of Scotland beating Fiji with the foreign or for overseas, whatever you call it, outside the URC based players coming in.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think so. I was just on your point about the Box going 6-2 on the bench. That's what they did at the World Cup.
Yeah.
So their bench was Bonge Manambe, Oxenche, Trevor Nyankane, RG Sneeman, Van Staden, Vermeulen, Grant Williams, who can play on the wing, and Willie LaRue.
I've never heard of anything.
That.
Now, what a shower of nobodies. Like, what are we on about here?
By contrast, Gregor went 5-3 with Ali Price, Cam Redpath, and Ollie Smith, the three backs. Matt Fagerson, Scott Cummings, Nell Batty, and Cherry was the bench. I think Scotland will go 6-2 this week. I would be really surprised if they don't.
So, like Ali Price, at the start of this season, I'm not even sure we're picking him in the Scotland squad. And he started on Saturday. And now you're saying 6-2 bench. So that would suggest Horn or Dobie on the bench, possibly Dobie. Or maybe Dobie ahead of Horn, in that he has actually been playing in a completely different position more recently and more often. But then you're probably saying to Ben White or whoever you start, you're going to play a lot of this game. And Finn is probably going to play a lot of this game. So if Gregor goes 6-2, I'm really interested to see who the two are. Probably I'm more interested to see who the two are than the 7 who are starting, because we could probably pick that.
Yeah, and I think and the backs who started the World Cup game, Kinghorn, Graham Jones, Tui Pilotu, Van der Merwe, Russell and White. If it's not the same again, I would be really surprised. I think that feels like our best set. I think you're right. The two on the bench is where it becomes interesting. I think Luke Gregor talked a wee bit kind of tongue-in-cheek about Blair being, possibly the 4th 10 when he named his squad. I just think that's finished. Like, I think that's done. Blair can cover the back three. Tom Jordan could play 15 as he did at the weekend. Thought fair play to him on his debut. It's not a position I've seen him play a lot. So I thought he did pretty well there. He could be an option. Adam Hastings could be an option. But again, Hugh Jones.
I'd be very surprised if Adam Hastings is one of the two on the bench.
I think you're right. I think I would
because Blair and Finn are not coming off unless they're hurt.
No, and that's where I think you need somebody like Tom Jordan who could potentially slot in. I think it will be Jordan because he can play 12.
Imagine we go with that 7 that you've just said, the 7 that you would pick to start, and you've got Tom Jordan and Jamie Dobie as your 2 on the bench. That's bonkers, but absolutely likely.
And then you've also got to take into consideration if Finn goes off, like if Finn gets injured, you're then putting Tom Jordan in to play at 10 against the Springboks. In the first international, he's played at 10 and kicked goals and he doesn't do that for Glasgow.
Blair will be kicking the goals.
Of course.
Blair will be kicking the goals.
Blair kicked last night for
Tom Jordan will probably just be saying to the Springboks boys, do you want to see my URC medal, mate?
And do you know what? Like, I think there's a lot of that from guys like him, from Dobie, from, folk like Jack Dempsey, who have played for African teams, who've played a lot of these players and won. But there are, the message very much was, let's be cautious that they're different when they're in the Springbok setup. We've totally diverted onto Springboks before we've talked about Fiji here.
So, well, it's the Darcy Graham show, so now we can just start bigging up the wee man because he looked very, very happy.
Yeah, and he looked very, very sharp. I think the first try was a nice kind of move down the front of a line. The second try, he was obviously very alert to the sort of possibility of the kick from Adam Hastings. The fourth one, though, was the one that, he was miles off his wing and he took a kind of reverse from Dobie and squeezed himself over the try line. Like, that to me is a guy who's back, happy, fit, and just wants on the ball.
Scotland have used that a few times. There was a few things about that I liked. One that Dobie was, he's a smart rugby player. And to call that and Darcy to be there, and those two are not club mates. So that's, for me, that was a nice little bit. The Adam Hastings crossfield kick, like talking about people being happy, Adam Hastings looked happy. He's had a tough period of time where he didn't seem to be sort of wanted. I don't know if that's, maybe I'm being a bit harsh there, but I'm not sure it was really that clear why he wasn't involved with Scotland. Injury at Gloucester, he's far away. He's looking up the road at Glasgow. I just think on Saturday he looked happy. He looks like he's maybe in the right place of life, not on the pitch and off the pitch. And Saturday looked like he was enjoying himself. And that behind the back pass, I assume he's got license to do that. And when it comes off, everybody gets excited. If he messes that up, then everybody's absolutely hammering him. But delighted for Adam Hastings. I think it was class. I'm delighted that he's there and pulling the strings and had that shot.
100%. Like, I think he deserved it. I think it has been a tough, probably couple of years, if we're honest, because he's had those injuries at Gloucester. There's been a lot going on for him kind of off the field as well, start of this season with his Auntie Jenny. I think it was great to hear. I heard Scott's voice on commentary, which was nice to hear. Look, I think it was good for Adam to get a good 80 minutes at 10 in a game that Scotland, that really, the game suited him. I think Mick Byrne, the Fiji coach, will be pulling his hair out that one of his players handed Scotland the ball just before Adam Hastings kicked the wee cross kick for Darcy. It's like those wee 1% things in international rugby that irritate coaches. But yeah, look, I think it was great to see him back. I hope he gets another run. Let's be honest, probably against Portugal. But I think that would have done his confidence absolutely no harm at all to have another good showing in that Scotland jersey.
How good was Darcy taking that ball, sticking on his boot, collecting it? That's like before training, mucking about stuff. That is absolutely class. That is coachable, right? That is coachable. MD says that's naturals, absolutely talking out their hind parts. That's coachable. But to do it at that level, unplanned, that just shows Darcy Graham loves his game, wants to play rugby, wants the ball, and will try and make something happen. I know it came from Adam Hastings, but Darcy, by all rights, should have. There's a lot of other wingers would have caught that and got tackled in a touch.
Oh, totally. I think the guy on the other
naming no names. No, I'm not naming any names. So let's just
well,
state this.
the guy on the other side
for
of the
the
pitch
record.
wouldn't have managed what Darcy did. And look,
But
you're 100%.
I mean, that's up the Wilton Park from S2. Just gold, Darcy. Those are bits that restore my faith, because a lot of international and professional rugby, no wonder folk are getting up and doing for pints all the time, because some of it is turgid. But moments like that just fill you up that there's still the chance for a wee lad for Hoyk to produce. I think that was, I don't care who that was against, that was magic.
It was magic. You've no idea how many times I watched it on the screens with one TV angle and said, right, can we just move on? He's obviously just dropped it. Let's just move on. It's not a try. End of story. And then when they showed that other angle, it was like, if
the first time I saw it, I couldn't work out what had happened.
Yeah.
Because you're behind Adam Hastings' back, the camera's in the main stand, Darcy's way over on the far side. I've no idea what, and in the space he had, what was the Fiji defender doing? Like, so much about that should have gone wrong, or should have gone right, depending on what way you look at it. And then when they showed it, it's like, he's put that on his boot. He's grubbered that.
Yeah. Incredible bit of skill. Class. And actually, if somebody like Cheslin Colby does that, it's probably
Rugby Pass are getting excited, and all the Facebook groups are going mental.
It's one of the most talked about things of the weekend, where Darcy does it, and it's sort of very typically a wee bit downplayed. But nah,
do you know where he learnt that? In the gym, lifting lots of weights. That's where he learnt that. That's where he learnt how to do that. In the gym, lifting lots of weights, getting stronger. That's when Darcy Graham learnt that.
Tongue placed firmly in cheek.
Tongue faced firmly wherever you wanted to be placed. Flipping, what a bit of skill. It just, and the bit of skill for Adam Hastings, right? But he'll be practicing that crossfield kick. Darcy to pull that, I just thought was absolute gold. And do you know who else I'm delighted for? And I sent him a message because I love him a bit. Grant Gilchrist.
Yes,
he's had it tight. Let's make no bones about it. He has copped it this season, and he's felt all of it. And I hope this international window is good for both the teams, both Glasgow and Edinburgh. I hope this break is a good thing for both of them, and they can come back, I don't know, fresh, whatever it is, invigorated, new intensity, whatever it is. I hope it's a good thing. But for somebody like Gilco and Darcy and Duhan, I hope this gives a lift.
And I think it shows, not to pick the bones out of Edinburgh another day, but get these guys the ball. Get Darcy and get Duhan on the ball, because they can cause chaos. Sione said after the game, every time Darcy plays at Murrayfield, he's going crazy. And every time Darcy plays, he should be off his wing. He should be, if you can get Darcy's hands on the ball 10, 15 times in a game, he'll make something happen, because he's that type of player. If you get Duhan's hands on the ball the same number of times, he's a big enough and he's a powerful, destructive runner that if he doesn't make something happen, he'll tie in a defender that should free up space elsewhere. I think, you're right that Edinburgh have obviously had it hard the start of this season. So let's hope the Scottish guys can get a run of games where they're playing well. They go back to both clubs in decent form, and they can build on what they've done kind of with Scotland, with our clubs in the second part of the season.
And what's the story with Darcy then?
So, failed HI 1, which is like the immediate test. So there's a series of HI 2, HI 3 that he has to pass before he can back train and all this kind of stuff. So We haven't heard any further update from the Scotland camp. They have a press conference tomorrow where hopefully they will give us some news or a bit of an update. But yeah, given that he failed HIA1, that obviously means immediately he's a doubt, and we don't know any further, basically.
If he's failed his HIA, he shouldn't be playing next week. But I'll get off my soapbox now. But if he's failed his HIA, he shouldn't be playing. Dempsey, Darge, Fagerson, go again?
I think so. I think it's. Look, Gregor said when he picked Gregor Brown on the bench that Jamie Ritchie was sort of being given the week to rip in at training and get ready for the Springboks. If Gregor does go down the 6-2 route, Jamie might get in on the bench. I think that Glasgow trio has been there, done it in the URC final last weekend. They're just the Stormers game. They're ready to go. That for me is Scotland's best three. I think the scrum. I think the pack will go again, barring possibly a change at hooker.
So who are you starting at hooker?
I would start Dylan Richardson at hooker. I think I thought he was good off the bench. I thought Ewan Ashman had a bit of a difficult day. He annoyed the ref. He was possibly lucky not to get a second yellow card for a high tackle. It wasn't his best outing. Luke Gregor's gone back to Ewan Ashman in the past when he's needed experience, but against some of his Sharks teammates, I'd throw Dylan Richardson in from the start.
I bet there'd be some poetry getting read in the front row in Afrikaans when they're packing down with Dylan Richardson in the middle. Can you imagine some of that? Now, the dark arts are almost a thing of the past, but even going against that Springbok scrum and you're not one of their pals would be tough. But
do you know? I hope Xander's brushed up because he'll be the odd one out.
I tell you what, big chap, every now and then you come from left field and go, booyah, here you go. That is gold. Who do you steal that from?
Nobody. I genuinely haven't. That is my own. That is non-recycled pattern.
Fair play, because most of mine is recycled. Same crap, just a different audience. But that is gold. Well played. I love that. So there was lots on Saturday, and I think outside the window games, we probably have to take all these small goals. It's a big win, scored tries, full stadium, new caps, boys getting experience, but it'll quickly be forgotten if it doesn't go. If there's not a move in the right direction, let's put it politely, against South Africa. To get a win would be incredible. But I think the performance is obviously the bit that they'll chirp about in the media and speak to you guys. And the performance against the Springboks, your stats are going to have to be on the money. Your line-out's going to have to be on the money. Your scrum's going to have to be on the money. Your defence is...
Your everything really has to be at 100%.
Pretty much, but this is one of those, there's olden days, you probably would have said, we'll take a 9-6. There's no way Scotland against South Africa nowadays is going to be 9-6. No. We're now looking at tries are going to be scored. And I don't know, maybe I need to be more optimistic, and usually I am, but I look at this Springboks team and I think they have to have a bad day.
But look, I think you forget, like, the double World Cup winning All Blacks team would come here, and if quite often they weren't fully loaded. If they picked Kano, McCaw, Reid, Smith, Carter, Sonny Bill, Nonu, look, it could get really, really ugly for Scotland. Like, there was a game 2010, Scotland got beat by nearly 50 points. I think back in that day, we were saying, oh, actually, if the All Blacks come with this team and Dan Carter and Richie McCaw play, we need them to have an off day, or as we've talked about before, like, we need a red card to challenge. And I think this Springbok team is in the same conversation in terms of its overall greatness as that All Blacks team. Do I think that we're in the same ballpark? I'm not sure. The World Cup game, if you remember, was really close at half-time, and Scotland should have scored just before half-time. Darcy made a break, and he should have given a 2-on-1 to Doohan on the wing.
So you have seldom sounded more Scottish than that last bit. We were there at half-time, and he should have given, and then we would have won.
No,
that is the perfect Scottish statement, if ever
definitely
I've heard
not. We definitely then would not have gone on and won the game by 30 points. But my point is, like, we were in the game at half-time, and I don't think this Springbok team has the same incredible ability as the 2015 All Blacks team, where they go try, and before you know it, you're 21 points down and the game's gone and you're miles away. I think they're more methodical about how they ruthlessly break you down and batter you into submission. But look, it'll take. I think this keep it below 40 points to be fine. Is possibly
Ross. Do you need a hug? Come on, Ross. I thought I was being negative.
Hugh says, looking forward to the game.
Shuggy Dunlop, good lad. Your tyres are magic, and I used to love your trainers. Will there be any Scotsmen in the team? Stevie, is that? Oh, it's a remembrance badge. Stevie, what do you mean will there be any Scotsmen in the team? We're playing South Africa. They all have to be South African. We're not getting them Scottish folk.
I think Stevie's point might be how many of theirs have we borrowed for this weekend?
I wound up folk on Facebook. Bring back the MPC on Facebook. I love the MPC. It's a level of rugby I absolutely love. And there's a guy does a Facebook group called Bring Back the MPC, and he'd posted the Scotland team and Fiji team about where they were born and then New Zealand team and England team and all that kind of thing. And I just thought it was interesting because folk are always bumping their gums about and throwing, why are you posting this? What does that matter? They're following the rules. And I didn't bother replying because let's face it, I've got my knitting today. So but I do find that like it is what it is, right? I've got my views. Nobody cares. So we just got to get on with it. You're supporting Scotland.
Yeah, sorry, just to interrupt, but Ross has come back. You offered him a hug and he's saying yes.
Right, Ross, see that muckle tree behind you? I'll see you there. We're about to wrap this up. I'll be there at 8 o'clock. I'll be the one with a Labrador. Hang on, this is good. Let's stop.
Ross,
I'm not sure if you took that too far or added, but let's cut
I think I could answer that, and it wasn't Ross.
I'm not sure. Like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to talk about can we keep it below 40 points. If they get 40 points, we get 38. I'll probably go. That was all right.
But I think if to end on a sensible point, which means you not talking.
All right.
I think you're right. You know, you said 5 minutes ago. It's the performance that matters. I think.
Tell you what, your passive aggressive is going to whole new levels now.
I must be getting hangry.
I always have my tea before I come on because I never know how long these things are going to last. Anyway, right. 5 minutes ago I said, but now you're going to have to say 6 minutes ago you said.
Performance against the Springboks matters. I think they got the result against Fiji. The performance wasn't perfect. I think if we get a performance on Sunday without the result, I think folk would take that. If we get no result and no performance, a repeat of the Ireland game is what I'm thinking at the World Cup. I think big questions will be asked.
Back to you, something you said, we've got to be in it at halftime. Because there could be a Blair bit of magic, a Darcy, a Doohan, Shuggy makes an interception. There could be something. And if you're John DL, I think there's targets all over the place. DL is going, right, do you know what? If we can nick one Springbok line out in the right place, it could be a momentum changer. Not necessarily a game changer, but a momentum changer. If we can be really high percentages on our own line out, it puts pressure on the Springboks. Do they give away penalties, in which case we get threes or we get into the corner? And like the catch and drive, if you're the Scottish coaching team, catch and drive 5 meters for the Springbok line, I'm not sure you're going, right lads, let's catch and build them all and drive this. I think you're going, right, here's a wee move, here's a wee sneaky, they're going to have to be Razzie creative, I think, against the Springboks. And Gregor's definitely got that in him.
Totally. I think, there was a game a few years ago against the Springboks when Hamish Watson scored a line-out try. Stuart McInally threw it between the jumpers and Hamish Watson ran in and collect. Like, all those wee things are things that Scotland will have to look at, because I think if you stand up and say, okay, we're going to take on Etzebeth and Khaleesi up front, they'll swallow you up. I think if you try and out-kick them, they're too good at that. And if you a couple of times on Saturday, Ali Price kicked badly out of the Fijian back three. Look, if you do that to Cheslin Colby, you're in serious bother. So Scotland have to be pretty much perfect on Sunday and come up with a bit of innovation. But have they got the personnel to do it? Certainly out wide there are some strike runners and some threats, but they've got to get right up front.
I read something about the All Blacks when I think it was Steve Hansen came in, and they said, stop making big speeches in the changing room before the game. There's no point. It's for you. It's not for us. By that stage, we're done. You're dying to do it. And I get that. And the messaging and the storytelling of the All Blacks, they're pretty upfront about it. They have Gilbert and Oka there. There's a whole load goes into it in the haka. And I'd love to be in the Scotland camp all the time. But this week, like, what are you talking about? How are you messaging? But if Scotland can beat South Africa, it is Gregor's biggest win. Unfortunately, it would be in the November tests, and actually it's not that big a deal. But to beat the Springboks, but there's also a chance for somebody to go that this is going to be the game that, like, nobody's, unfortunately for Darcy, nobody's going to be remembering his 4 tries against Fiji in years to come. But if he produces something on Saturday against the Springboks, or Duan, or Shuggy, or Sione, or Xander, or if this could be the Finn Russell moment. This could be, by the way, there's your golden ticket, Ant and Deck style. You're on the Lions tour next year, son, because you've just got player of the match and you're winning against the Springboks. I think it's that big a game.
Yeah, I think it is too. I think, and for Gregor,
because I think we'll beat Australia and I think we'll beat Portugal. So I think we'll get 3, and people would probably say that's a successful autumn. But if we beat South Africa, I would give the rest of them the 2 weeks off, and we'll bring in another whole load of folk to play against Portugal and Australia.
You just want a game.
Well, I'm nearly there. I'm nearly there. I was out in the back garden the other night. I was on the trampoline and sweeping up leaves, right enough. But
I'll do.
Yeah.
It might be all the training you need.
I think this is huge. I genuinely think this is huge. I'm a bit gutted at the kickoff time and the kickoff day. Like, if this was Saturday at 20 to 6, dark, dim the lights, phones on, Piper.
To talk about that, like, I think that's another thing that will make a massive difference. There's games that you look at. I've been at a lot of Scotland games over the years, and you remember some of them. 99 against the All Blacks, and they played in this horrible orange kit. I remember the atmosphere before, and Jonah ran in. I think he scored a couple of tries, but look, the atmosphere beforehand was electric. There were a couple of the wins against England, 2018, probably the one that stands out. The crowd singing "Flower of Scotland" just before the end. The game where Doddy brought the ball out before we played the All Blacks in 2017.
When Greig kicked the goal against Ireland, the place went flip. It was going nuts before he even put the ball in the tee. It was class. And that's back to what I said before. We've got to be in at half time, otherwise the whole energy is sucked out of the stadium.
But there's not been one of them, I don't think, probably since fans were back post-COVID, this is the one, and the players have got to give the supporters something to cheer about, but the supporters have got to, off the back of a big win, get right behind the team and see what happens.
If there's a Mexican wave on Saturday, I'll greet.
I think we all will.
Winds me up. I think the Mexicans have even said, please stop calling it a Mexican wave because we're sick of taking the blame for it. Right, big fella. Good to see you. All eyes on Sunday. That means you can put your feet up on Saturday.
I wish it did. Murrayfield on Saturday for Razzie Erasmus or Sia Khaleesi captain's run, and I presume Sione Tuipulotu. So we'll be there. We'll be right across Scotland camp this week, starting with press conference tomorrow. Springbok camp tomorrow, and
I can't believe you're now doing this. I thought it was just the BBC, but you're going to be right across that. Who started that phrase? We're going to be right across the.
It's like the
who
one
started that?
Who calls attack and defence both sides of the ball?
Oh, winds me up.
Like, where did that come from?
I don't know, but there's 4 sides to a flipping rugby ball for a start. So what's happened to them being on the other 2 sides? It just that nonsense. But you just did that. You're going to be right across. I'll be right across there now. Do you know where I'm going to be on Saturday? I don't know if you remember, but a good lad, Finlay McDonald, took his own life, and there's a game in his memory at St Andrews on Saturday afternoon, organised by his buddies at St Andrews Uni on Saturday afternoon. Incredible kid, an incredible group of boys rallying round, doing something good on what would have been, well, not quite, but this is his birthday time. So to celebrate Finlay's life, outstanding. And there's heaps going on in November. There's so many things going on, A games and club games and dinners, and this is when Wooden Spoon and Doddy's Foundation and everybody's got stuff going on. So there's heaps happening. And the biggest dinner of all, Moffat 30th anniversary on Saturday night.
You'll be there. Master of ceremonies.
They've sent the menu. You want to see the scoff. It's absolute. Cammy Little, do you know Cammy Little? Little's Bakery in Moffat.
Yeah,
fantastic bakery. I'm going to. Do you know what I'm starting? I'm having the pate to start, and it says pate and hedgerow chutney served with Melba toast, and I read it as pate and hedgehog chutney. So, I was a bit disappointed. Not that look after the hedgehogs, folks.
What was the alternative? Because you'll definitely get one of them squirreled away.
Oh, look at this. Tomato and red pepper soup. Right, creamy garlic, mushrooms, and crusty bread. Why would you eat fungus? I didn't get the whole mushroom thing. Seafood platter with side salad and brown crusty bread. Pate and hedgehog chutney served with Melba toast. So there's four choices. Main course, roast Galloway beef and Yorkshire pudding. Yes, please. Rona's having the pork fillet. There's salmon, roast vegetable parcel. I would be posting that. Chicken wrapped in Parma ham served with a herby tomato sauce. Or do you know what also makes me laugh? There's the option to have no main course. So you could just have this. There's an option for no starter, no main, and no dessert. So you could just, if you wanted, you could just have starter and dessert. But
imagine
I'll have all 3.
Have you got a box that says multiple portions?
Well, wait till you hear this for desserts. Banoffee pie, raspberry and white chocolate port, apple crumble and custard, or cheese board, or no dessert.
Right, go on then. What have you gone for?
Apple crumble and custard, always.
It's a tough one, that.
I was going to go banoffee pie. Johnny Matthews has gone banoffee pie.
Frank will hear you say that.
Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Aye. So Moffat, Cammy Little invited us down, and I'm taking Rona and Johnny Matthews. It's going to be quite the thing. I'm awfully excited. Between the 3 of us, we've scored a lot of tries. An
awful lot, and talked a lot.
Yeah, one's talked more than he scored tries.
It's harsh on Johnny because he scored a lot of tries.
He messaged me today, said, "I just hang off the back of them all," and it just happens. Great lad. Anyway, that was 25 minutes longer than you wanted it to be. So thanks for tuning in, folks. Scotland Rugby News. It's £4 for 4 months. Get involved. There's heaps on there. And Gav's dropped it in about 25 times that he's getting to meet Rassie Erasmus, and I'm not. So you read all about it. And Fiji, well played. Love you. Wish I'd got to catch up with them. I hope folk bumped into them on the street and made them feel welcome, because they're an incredible bunch of people. And now it's all eyes in the Springboks, and Scotland will be number 1 by Monday morning. Cheers, big chap. See you soon.
Good to see you.
Look after you, folks.